Welcome to another Star Rail DPS Showdown. Today, we've got a Battle of the Titans, and this is also our first three-way fight. All our participants have been featured in previous ones, so let's skip the introductions and get right into their builds. My Jingliu has 136 speed and a whopping 30 to 275 crit ratio, rocking her signature light cone. Although her traces could be improved, she's still very high investment. 4-piece Quantum, 2-piece Rutilant, crit damage body, speed boots, ice damage orb, and attack percent rope. She is of course at E0. One thing you're going to notice is they're sharing a lot of the same relics. Don't worry about the crit rate on Imbibitor, we're using Fushuan with all of them, and he's also got Yukong, signature light cone of course, and pretty high trace investment. 4-piece Quantum because these are my best pieces, and I did try this with multiple sets as well, and this turned out to be the best. He's also at E0, and I'll talk more about why I have him on this speed later on. My Seele has a hefty 75-189 crit ratio with lots of attack. She's got her signature light cone and pretty much max trace investment too. She's got 4-piece Quantum of course, but with a crit rate body this time. Attack percent boots, Quantum orb, and attack percent rope, which is being shared between the three of them. Just like the other two, she's at E0. Today's battlefield will be Memory of Chaos 10's second half. I try to get at least 10 good runs in with each character, and this doesn't even include the first half. I tested many combos of relics, supports, and rotations, but the runs you'll see are what turned out to be the best for me. I actually kept track of my clear speed, so you'll be able to see that at the end as well. If you haven't already, I'd appreciate it a lot if you left a like and sub. These videos take a long time to make, but I enjoy doing them. There's no restriction on characters this time around, except that I must bring a sustain, otherwise it would just be me fishing for 0 cycles, and that's not fun. The goal of this video isn't to determine who's strongest, but one key takeaway you can get is how each of these characters perform at their full E0 potential. Over time, relic and build quality will improve, you'll start getting Eidolons for your 4 stars and even standard 5 stars, so what you see is attainable. All my support builds will be shown at the end, and I'll explain my thought process behind each one as well as during the fights. Although I try my best to make these showdowns as fair as possible, I'll never succeed in getting it perfect, which is kind of the reality of the game. Memory of Chaos operates on a cycle that favors the current limited character, and turbulences can kind of be hit or miss. There's also a clear elemental disadvantage for Seele, given the Stormringers don't have quantum weakness, but before you jump to any conclusions, I encourage you to watch the entire video first for full context. With that out of the way, let's get on with the show. So something interesting happened here, and I thought I'd keep this run anyway. Jingliu didn't enter battle with 1 stack of Syzygy, so we have to get both stacks manually before she can enter her state. In all my runs, this actually happened, and I have no idea why. If you know, let me know in the comments. But yeah, this doesn't actually impact the results since the first cycle, we should be aiming for a 0 cycle clear anyway. I thought it had something to do with Fushuan's technique being a dimension, but it's not. So it's likely that only the swarm is being trapped in the dimension since that's the thing we attack when entering battle. But even this explanation doesn't make any sense because the swarm doesn't get trapped in the dimension and we don't get the stack of Syzygy or the extra energy, so I have no idea. Luckily, this isn't a big deal, and between this enhanced skill and the next one from Bronya, we are going to be clearing this in 0 cycles. Imbibitor's setup is actually a little more different. We need to ult right away with Tingyun so that she gets her 5 energy at the start of her turn. Sometimes Fushuan's basic attack hit too hard on the memory imprinted target and took out the bird, meaning Imbibitor didn't get the energy. Also, because we're using Fushuan, we need to be smarter with skill point management. So on the first one here, buffed by Yukong's roaring bowstrings, we need to do a 2 enhanced basic attack. That way we can save the big buff turn for his triple enhanced basic attack just so we can get the 0 cycle. Okay, the reason why we have Imbibitor on 114 speed, Tingyun's E1 gives the Benediction target a 20% speed increase after using their ults. Between that and Dance 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 and 4-piece Hacker Space, Imbibitor should be able to take 2 actions per cycle here, doesn't matter if it's the first or second either, and this should help him save a lot of cycles. Alright, let's see what Seele's got. She's got to live up to the 0 cycle here with Jingliu and Imbibitor Lunae. These things don't have quantum weakness, but you're gonna see real quick that this isn't an issue for our butterfly girl. We pretty much always want to be attacking the target with the memory imprint, that way we can deal damage to the side enemies as well. Something really cool about the turbulence buff is you actually get the benefits of defeating an enemy if you take them out with it, like the extra energy. This also means Seele gets her resurgence. One thing you're going to see me doing a lot is balancing skill point usage. Sometimes we might not even be able to use Tingyun's skill, but that's okay. We want to make sure that Seele is using her skills and basics where needed. Since she gets a 20% action advance on using her basics, we want to make sure her next turn is always right before Bronya, while still maintaining the 25% speed buff from her skill. Also, I hope you Seele mains are happy. I managed to press my ult in time. I'm learning. We're back on Jingliu, and it looks like we managed to zero cycle the first wave with all of them. This is where it gets tricky. The problem is, once you actually get to the swarm's second phase, it doesn't actually reset the cycle, so you just have to continue. This might look like I'm wasting a turn on Bronya's ult, but I actually want to do this because I know I can get her ult later on. If I use my skill first, I actually lose out on the energy, and then I can't guarantee it. Between Pella's ult, Fu Xuan's ult, and then a couple more of Jingliu's attacks, we should be able to pop the little bug supply vulnerability to the main swarm guy. Also, it's kind of funny because this is the most damage I've seen her skill do outside of Simulated Universe. We pop our ult right away, that way we still maintain the last turn on Bronya's ult buff. And get ready for some Jingliu damage. But overall, this run is looking pretty solid. We're gearing up for a zero cycle clear on the first phase of the bug. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about the explodey guys too much because we have Fu Xuan. She'll pretty much prevent it from ever CCing us. We're going to be able to get off one last Bronya enhanced skill before leaving the state. The cycle counter will also tick down by 1, so hopefully we can get our stacks back as soon as possible. The True Sting's also prepping for its ult, which means we're going to get our motion blur. Just look at the frames on that thing. So smooth. On pretty much every feedback survey I've been putting in, please let us have motion blur as an option and give us relic loadouts. Those are like the two top things I ask, and this game's already great. At the time of recording this, the new community info showed that we're getting so many new things, like a rotating Memory of Chaos cycle with an endless mode, and even MOC 11 and 12. I can't wait. The amount of things they give us in this game is just, you can tell how much they actually care about their player base, and that's going to keep me coming back and making content. I'm so happy about it. Back to the fight though, we're on our last turn, we got the Bronya buff, and we have our ult and an enhanced skill. This should do it. We're going to slow things down for more dramatic effect, and it is over. Time to see how the former Elder of the Imbibitor does against the bug. His team doesn't have Bronya, but no worries, he's still Imbibitor Lunae. And again, we made sure to speed tune everything. Tingyun and Fu Xuan going first, Yukong right in front of Imbibitor for her skill, and just enough speed buffs and action advancing so he can get 2 turns per cycle. The key here was to chip down the little bugs so that he can actually take them out with his ult. That way he applies vulnerability to the main guy, and this will super pump up his enhanced basic attack. We're only going to opt for a 2 enhanced basic attack because we're going to save it for 3 later. That way we can one-shot and go to the next phase. The cool thing about this setup is Tingyun pretty much gives enough energy that Imbibitor can ult every single turn he gets. She's also got enough speed that she can refund some skill points for the team as well. I actually tried doing runs with Pella instead of Yukong since she's fully skill point positive and gives 40% death shred on all enemies, but I wasn't able to zero cycle the Wind Horseman with Pella. That made the rest of the run slower, so for this scenario, Yukong was the better pick. Yukong gives her massive attack percent bonuses from Roaring Bowstrings, as well as giving Imbibitor a guaranteed chance to crit with about a 70% crit damage buff as well when she ults. And on top of all this, she gives 36% imaginary damage bonus just for existing. I thought maybe because he had 4-piece Quantum, it'd close the gap between Pella and Yukong, but I guess Yukong's just way too overloaded for him. I did try mixed sets of Musketeer and Wastelander as well as 4-piece Wastelander, which I do have good pieces for, but Quantum overtook both in the end. For Jingliu's run, of course, her signature along with Pella and 4-piece Quantum made a huge difference since defense reduction increases damage exponentially as you approach 100%. But yeah, Imbibitor didn't care about defense at all, and he still shredded everything. We got our Yukong ult, we managed to use a Fushuan beforehand, and let's get ready to see an Imbibilion damage. 470,000 in memory of... Oh my god. And just like Jingliu, let's appreciate this moment. Alright Seele, you're up. Let's see if she's able to keep up with the other two. We gotta start with her skill to maintain her speed buff, and we can't really use her basic to advance before Bronya, so that's kind of what we have to do. Unfortunately, that leaves us with no skill points for a Tingyan Benediction buff, but that's okay. We're gonna start abusing one of the main things about Seele that makes her so strong, her Resurgence. The nice thing about Seele's Resurgence is that buffs don't actually tick down when she takes that extra action since it's not a new turn. That means Bronya's skill buff that only lasts for one turn pre-E6 can remain as long as she's within her Resurgence window. Because she gets so many chances to attack, the only challenge is figuring out when to use skill and basic. But the general guideline is to maintain her skill speed buff as well as action advancing with her basic when possible. You definitely want to maximize her damage as well by using her skill when she's buffed by Bronya's skill, so keep that in mind. Just like the other two, it's kind of an impossible task to zero cycle this thing. If you got an unlimited amount of time and run triple harmony, I'm sure you could do it, but it's pretty tough here. In this run, of course, we're going to try to aim to clear it in the next cycle. That being said, I'm fully expecting to see Fu or Dreamy zero cycle this with the same team. Seele's basic will send us into the final phase of the swarm, and this way she also goes before Bronya. I'm gonna let you enjoy the music synced with these ults. The reason we use Seele's ult there is because I know we can get it back for a big turn later on, and this way we can start chipping away at the little guys so they apply vulnerability before then. Also, Tingyan's literally in an F1 car, she's going to get one more action before Bronya, and that way she gets her ult on Seele as well. This Turbulence buff kind of makes me think that we might get a hunt character that can deal its damage to side enemies, but I could be wrong, that might be real copium, we'll see. The finale of the showdown is upon us. Let's see how this plays out. Tingyan ult and damage buff on Seele. Now it's Bronya's turn, give her the big skill damage buff. And this should do it. Well, I wasn't expecting this, but we have a three-way draw. You'll see all the support builds here, and if there's anything worth mentioning that I haven't already, I'll make sure to point it out. I tracked all my attempts, and this is mostly here to show you how the runs went, but again, please don't use this as evidence because a lot of things influence the attempts. In the first few runs, I'm still figuring out how to best optimize rotations, and one thing that also matters is I started with Jingliu, which means I had the least practice going into it with her. What you can take away though is that they're fairly consistent even with my skill issues. Most of the runs were 1 cycles, which sounds about right for these characters at their near full E0 potential, again with a sustain in practical teams. I think we can all agree that each of them are quite capable and live up to their names. I wanted to add the DPS meter and gather some other stats like I usually do, but partway through doing it I realized it was going to take way too long for 3 characters. If I do get an editor, then yes, but at the moment it's not sustainable, unfortunately. As always, if you have any feedback or suggestions, do let me know in the comments. I'm constantly looking for ways to improve these videos and showdowns, but keep in mind that there are way too many variables to consider and sometimes I just have to go with it. Everyone has different accounts with varying relic quality and supports, but my showcases should be a good indication of what you can expect from characters at high investment, though realistic and E0. I think moving forward, this is how I want to go about doing things. I'll still throw in the occasional free-to-play builds and setups, but if I gave them each a free-to-play light cone and team, I'd be spending 2 to 3 times the amount of hours this already took. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time.